Hey guys, what is up? NYKia31 here, Madden 18. This is an online CFM game with the Texans. My Panthers playbook experiment. Going pretty well, I must say. Can't complain so far as the results. But anyhow, I haven't done a video in over a week now, since before the Saturday before the Super Bowl. I've been under the weather, combined with having a severe case of Madden burnout, which always seems to hit me around this time of the year. I mean, when you're playing from, August to August, that's bound to happen. And, I occasionally have these bouts of burnout, then I need to recharge the batteries and plunge in once again. But anyhow, there are a few things I want to hit on in this video. Recap the Super Bowl a little bit, the aftermath of the Super Bowl. I want to talk about the state of Madden from the perspective of their partnership with Disney and ESPN that was announced about a week ago regarding the increased exposure of the Madden Championship Series that is broadcasted over Twitch, as well as the NFL Network, and how that keeps on growing and getting bigger in exposure. I don't think there's any question or doubt about that. Now, as far as the Super Bowl is concerned, or was concerned, happy as hell that the Eagles won. Not just because of, prediction accuracy purposes, but because as a Jets fan, I genuinely want the Patriots to lose as much as humanly possible. first and foremost. But as far as the game itself went, it had everything you could possibly want from a drama perspective. From Malcolm Butler finding out that he's going to be benched for the game just before kickoff, to the ebbs and flow of the game, which pretty much resembled an arena football game. I'll get into that in a little bit. To, the finish, and then, the whole aftermath of the Malcolm Butler fallout, as well as the complete circus that was the Josh McDaniels situation, where you had the Colts announcing his hired a staff around him, and then, nope, Josh McDaniels goes, to hell with that, I'm staying in New England. Just out of the blue, leaving the Colts high and dry. Now, as far as the game itself, it's really rare that you see NFL championship games, either, NFC or AFC conference title games or Super Bowls, play out the way that game played out, where there's just a complete lack of defensive integrity. Usually either have blowouts, where it's a boat race one way or the other, or the game is a grind. It's usually one of the two. I can't really think of a Super Bowl that was like this one, where it was just a complete track meet up and down the field. Wide receivers turned loose all over the place. Runs being gashed, where backs are hitting the second level untouched. Neither team being able to pressure the quarterback whatsoever. And what you get when you have a game like that, where you can't pressure the quarterback, that's what the game's going to turn into. If you can't pressure the quarterback and you can't stop the run, you're not going to be able to stop the passing game, because you're going to have receivers running all over the place free, because it's impossible, nigh on impossible, to cover receivers in this game now anyway, the way it's officiated. You can't touch them, and there's absolutely no fear of going across the middle anymore. So the game degenerates into a 7-on-7 drill. And while I'm watching it, I'm sitting there wondering, well, okay, what could either team do different to kind of tighten the screws a little bit? And I couldn't really think of anything outside of, well, okay, Pats. Philly is pretty much targeting whoever Eric Rowe is covering relentlessly. At the beginning of the game, it was Alshon Jeffrey just tearing him apart. He was out there making pre-patch Madden 16 catches all over the field. So they swapped him and Gilmore did a better job. But then once they put Rowe on Aguilar, Aguilar started going off. So they couldn't hide the guy. They couldn't cover the backs at all. They couldn't cover Ertz. They couldn't do anything. Every time they showed too high, they give up like 8 yards a carry. I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean. When they crowded the box, they either gained yards anyway, or they play action to them, or straight drop back and someone was wide open down the field. Or just beating somebody one-on-one. Whenever either team blitzed, they got absolutely torched. Philly's not a really heavy blitz team, but one of the times they tried it, Cooks was wide open by about 5 yards, and luckily for them, got knocked out of the game. I think if Cooks didn't get concussed, I do think the Pats win the game. Because with Cooks in the game, those plays, those countless plays where one of the receivers is open by 10, 15 yards, Cooks can turn that into a touchdown because he's one of the fastest guys in the field. Without him, that element was missing. You don't quite fear Amendola or Hogan running away from anybody. It's just a different dynamic entirely. So really, there wasn't anything either team could do other than pray and hope to hold serve, or hope somebody makes a mistake, a fumble, a fluke INT, a bad read, something, anything. But in games like that, the thing with games like that, once you get into a game where defensive integrity is lost, it very rarely is ever found again. It usually stays that way. It's really difficult to get that type of game stabilized, but it didn't happen until the very end, where Brandon Graham had the pass rush sequences of his life, one resulting in a sacked fumble, and at the end, the Hail Mary, that had a chance. Outside of Gronk, they did have a couple of guys in space where they could have potentially caught a rebound, but Graham got just an absurd get-off on a three-man rush and sped up the clock on that play, and it was all she wrote. Just a really wild, entertaining game to watch, and I'm really happy for Philly and all their fans. Well done, well earned. They are going to cherish that for a really, really long time, and rightfully so. Now, as far as the Malcolm Butler situation is concerned, that's one of the craziest things I've seen in quite some time. Here you have a guy who's played virtually every snap for you on defense for the entire season, and you decide to inform the guy that he's not going to play in the game at all just before kickoff of the Super Bowl for quote-unquote football reasons. That's insane. That's complete and utter nonsense. Something had to have happened that we don't know about between those two, where something got personal. Butler swears that he was not missing curfew, he wasn't out smoking weed. The only thing that happened out of the ordinary was him arriving a day late because he was sick, and outside of that, no one knows anything else. And I kind of wonder if Belichick lost the locker room to a degree, because you hardly ever see the Patriots players in a state of bewilderment after a game, win or lose. And you also had former players like Ty Law and Bruschi going, hold up, this makes no sense. We need an explanation. And that never happens. So I kind of wonder, some of the players in the organization are, a bit, pissed at Bill for doing this. And I wonder if that plays a part in McDaniels coming back and being promised that he's going to be taking the reins from Bill once he leaves, which has to be in the next year or two at the very most, because otherwise this is a horrible career move for McDaniels. And it still might be if he's, slap coaching a team that Tom Brady's not going to be a part of with no heir apparent in sight, which is probably likely. So yeah, just really, really weird. And how come it's always the Pats that are involved in something seedy, unethical, morally questionable? It's always them. No one else. Always them. So yeah, just really, really strange. Now, let me transition to that. I'm not going to have a whole heck of a lot of time left, but let me transition from that to talking about the state of Madden, more so competitive Madden for the time being. I'll do a separate video going into this more, but I saw quite a bit of hubbub over Twitter about the Madden League participants being featured in the game as coaches you can put on your sideline for your team, as well as the expanding of their Madden Championship Series broadcasting. We know it's mostly on Twitch and the NFL Network as far as the finals go right now, but it's going to be expanding to Disney and ESPN. Look, this is the new normal. The esport element of these sports games are not going away. It's only going to grow. That's just the way it is. And of course, they're going to promote the event and they're going to promote the competitors in those events. It's just stupid to think that they wouldn't. So, acting all alarmed by that is just a colossal waste of time. Their goal is to clearly get the competitive Madden scene on par with FIFA, which is rolling right along. I love watching the FIFA stuff. The FIFA tournament is really fun to watch. We're also seeing the NBA 2K E-League ramping up and getting ready to get going, and that's really going to be one of the primary vehicles used to market these games. There's no doubt about that. You don't partner with the NBA, the NFL, ESPN, the NFL Network, Disney, and not use those platforms to market the modes you're going to be using in those competitions for your given product. And for the love of God, please stop talking about there being an XFL video game. The league is not kicking off in 2 years, that's 2020, and the league's going to have to survive for a bare minimum 5 years before anyone views popping down the resources to make an XFL game as being viable from a business perspective. I mean, let's think a little bit. So many people in this football community are so quick to get roped into these pie in the sky scenarios and wasting their time chasing their own tail. So, yeah, that's all I got to say about that. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Love to hear your thoughts, and I will talk to you all later as this game wraps up. Peace.
Now they'll throw here out of the gun. And it's intercepted at the goal line. Able to get there and pick it. And a big turn. A little extra special, isn't it?
It is because, let's face it, in most cases, you're not expected to go on the road and win in the National Football League. It just doesn't usually compute. So to get out there, get that done, and then head back to your city with one in the victory column, oh, that's a fantastic feeling.
So for Houston, they just keep on rolling as they move to 9-2 with a win here. And they'll get the weekend off now as they get a little extra time to prepare to face the Chicago Bears. Meanwhile, for Detroit, it'll be loss number 6 on the season for them. And they'll be on the road next week as they get a date with the Jaguars in Jacksonville. So that'll do it for us. For my partner, Charles Davis, and all the hard-working men and women on our crew, I'm Brandon Gaudin. You've been watching the NFL right here on EA Sports. With that, we say so long, everyone, from Ford Field.